Maya Thompson stepped out of the sleek black car and looked up at Titan Corp's glass tower. The morning sun sparkled on each pane, making the building seem to glow. Her heart pounded with a mix of pride and nerves. Today was her first day as CEO. She smoothed the front of her navy blazer and took a deep breath. She reminded herself of every step that had led her here, late nights studying business plans, long calls with investors, and her grandmother's steady voice saying, "You belong." Inside the lobby, tall marble pillars rose to a high ceiling. A polished stone floor reflected Maya's soft footsteps as she walked toward the elevators. Around her, people in sharp suits and designer dresses chatted in low voices. She carried only a slim leather folder, no extra bag to slow her down. Every detail of the lobby felt new and precious, and she paused to touch the smooth railing before stepping into the elevator, where mirrors made the space feel larger. On the top floor, the boardroom door stood heavy and imposing. Through the small glass window, Maya saw the board members, men and women in their 50s and 60s. Arranged around a long darkwood table, she straightened her shoulders and pushed the door open. A hush fell. Their faces held surprise at seeing her so quickly, as if she had materialized in an instant. Maya held their gaze calmly. She nodded once in greeting, and then the acting chair cleared his throat. "Miss Thompson," he said, voice as cold as the polished table, "before we begin, please go to the cafeteria and serve coffee to each of us. It will help you learn humility." A few board members snickered behind their hands. Maya felt a hot flash of shock, but she bowed her head slightly. "Yes, sir," she said, voice low but steady. With that, she turned and walked out, each step measured, as the board watched her leave. In the cafeteria, steam rose from rows of shiny coffee machines. Square tables stood empty except for a few early birds. Maya found a plain white apron, hanging on a hook by the counter. She hesitated only a moment before slipping it on. The fabric felt unfamiliar, like a mask she had never worn. As she tied the strings around her waist, she told herself she could do this. If humility was part of the lesson, she would learn it with grace. She filled a stainless steel pitcher with milk, poured rich dark coffee into cups, and ranged them on a tray. The aroma of espresso and sweet syrups filled her nose, and her nerves eased with each breath. Maya moved carefully, making sure each cup looked perfect. She balanced the tray on her palm and stepped toward the first table, where an older gentleman in a crisp suit tapped his finger on the formica. "Coffee, sir?" Maya asked quietly, placing a latte in front of him. He raised an eyebrow but took a sip. She observed his face tighten as he tasted the foam. Then he nodded once. "Not bad," he muttered. Maya offered a small smile, then moved on. At the next table, a woman in a bright red blouse whispered to her neighbor as Maya approached. The whisper turned into a laugh as the neighbor noticed Maya's badge. Maya felt a sting but said nothing. As she served more cups, she watched the board members' faces. Some looked down at their phones, scrolling. Others tapped their pens on the table. A few exchanged quick glances. None spoke directly to her. Yet Maya saw more in those quiet gestures than words could say. She remembered her grandmother's advice: every task, no matter how small, teaches you something. With each refill and each delicate froth design, she learned who looked stressed and who tried to hide it behind a calm mask. Behind the counter, a janitor named Joe leaned on his mop. He wore a faded blue jumpsuit and a gentle smile. Maya knew his name from the security guard's note. Old Joe's been here longer than most board members. He gave her a quiet nod and mouthed, "Keep your head up." That small gesture felt like a lifeline. Maya lifted her chin and met his eyes, thankful. She turned back to the tables with a new sense of purpose. At a round table, two executives argued softly about last quarter's earnings. One accused the other of hiding losses. The other insisted it was a typo in the report. Maya recognized the tables where she had seen quick meetings on her way in. She took note of who looked confident and who looked uneasy. When she placed a cup in front of them, she held her hand steady even as their eyes flicked toward her. She nodded again and stepped back. A junior board member in thin-rimmed glasses chuckled and asked, "Is this part of the orientation, Ms. Thompson?" Maya paused before answering. "Yes," she said simply. Her voice carried no resentment. He frowned but turned back to his coffee. She felt a quiet satisfaction in that moment. She could serve coffee. She could learn humility, and she would remember every detail. By the time she reached the last table, her arms felt heavy with the tray. She offered the final cup to a woman in a dark suit whose name read Cynthia Reyes. The woman took the cup and paused. She looked at Maya for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Thank you," she said softly. In that simple exchange, Maya felt the smallest victory. Respect could grow even in the smallest moments. When the tray was empty, Maya carried it back to the counter. She set it down carefully and removed the apron. She paused in front of the mirror above the sink and met her own eyes. There stood a woman who had faced doubt and still kept her calm. She remembered her grandmother's words and Joe's nod. Humility did not mean weakness. It meant openness to learn. Maya picked up her folder and smoothed its edges. She took one last look around the cafeteria, the bright lights, the stainless steel machines, the quiet chairs. Then she straightened her shoulders and walked back toward the boardroom door. Each step felt steadier now, as if the weight of the tray had strengthened her. Reaching the door, she paused and took a deep breath. The hum of voices inside sounded different now, less like judgment and more like an invitation. Maya lifted her hand and knocked once, firmly. She heard the acting chair call her name. She opened the door and stepped in. No apron, only her confidence. As she stood before them, the board members watched her with new curiosity. Maya placed her folder on the table, feeling its thin presence more powerful than any coffee tray. She had learned about power and people, even in a humble task. Now she was ready to begin her real work, armed with the lessons of a simple act of service and the quiet strength that comes with true humility. Maya walked into the boardroom with measured steps, her folder tucked under her arm. She had just returned from the cafeteria, where she had served coffee to every board member. Now she stood before them, her face calm and her posture straight. For a moment, the room was silent. Then the acting chair, Mr. Caldwell, cleared his throat and glanced around the table. "Ms. Thompson," he began, "we have an urgent matter to discuss. Our subsidiary, Zenithek, has suffered a major setback. Its stock value dropped 20% overnight after a damaging news report." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Some executives exchanged worried looks, others shifted in their seats, pressing their lips together. Maya opened her folder and took out a copy of the subsidiary's financial summary. She had not expected this, but she stayed calm. She remembered every detail she had learned while serving coffee, the tense faces, the hidden alliances, the fretful glances. She slipped into listening mode, her mind working faster than ever. The CFO, Mr. Patel, spoke next. His voice trembled slightly. "The media claims we knowingly hid losses in our new software launch. They allege fraud. Our PR team says it was a mistake in the coding, but the market hates that kind of error." He looked at Maya, as if seeking reassurance. Maya nodded slowly. She glanced at the board members. She saw Mrs. Reynolds tapping her pen, her brow furrowed. She saw Mr. Cho leaning back, arms crossed, lips tight. She knew Mr. Cho's stake in the company was large. He would not tolerate a false report. "May I have 10 minutes to review the internal reports?" Maya asked in a clear voice. A few board members raised eyebrows. 10 minutes was a short time for a crisis this big. Mr. Caldwell hesitated, then nodded. "Very well, 10 minutes." Maya stood and walked out of the room. Her heart beat fast, but her mind was focused. She knew exactly where the data room was. On the hallway wall, she saw a small sign, "Zenithek Confidential." She followed the arrow and pushed open the heavy door. Inside, rows of screens displayed charts and tables. A single technician sat at a workstation, turning in surprise at Maya's entrance. She flashed her ID badge and asked politely, "May I access the latest transaction logs and the software error reports?" The technician, a young man in a black polo shirt, nodded and typed quickly. Data streams appeared on the screen. Maya scanned the numbers. She looked for patterns. She spotted an odd entry, a line of code flagged as anomaly in an early test. It had been marked by a junior engineer as a minor glitch, nothing serious, but it had slipped through quality checks and reached the live version. That glitch made the system report missing data as negative values and error that read like a loss. When the news outlet's reporter tested the feature, he saw a negative number and assumed fraud. Maya's pulse steadied. She understood the full picture. Now she turned to the technician. "Please pull the internal memo from last week. Any notes on that anomaly?" The technician located the memo, which described the glitch, its cause, and the plan to correct it. Maya scanned the memo. It stated that a patch would be applied next morning. She closed her eyes for a moment to gather her thoughts. Then she drafted a brief statement on her tablet, a correction and apology from Zenithek, an explanation that a software error misreported data. and an assurance that the patch would fix the issue in hours. She wrote another note to the PR team. Issue press release immediately. Attach code details and schedule for the patch. Next, she outlined a short internal memo to the board, a timeline of events, the technical cause, and her plan to restore confidence. She knew investors would appreciate honesty and swift action. With 7 minutes left, Maya saved her drafts and printed copies. She slipped the papers into her folder and stood. The technician watched her. Maya thanked him quietly and left the data room. Walking back toward the boardroom, she felt as though she carried the weight of Titan Corp's reputation in her hands. Yet she felt confident. She thought of the coffee cups lined up in the cafeteria minutes before, and how each cup had taught her about people's hidden fears. Now she would use that knowledge. The boardroom door was closed. Maya knocked gently and stepped inside. Heads turned. Mr. Caldwell's eyes narrowed. The room held a tense energy, like before a storm breaks. Maya walked to the front and placed her folder on the table. "Thank you for your patience," she began, her voice steady. "I have reviewed the reports and identified the cause. It is not fraud. It is a software glitch that misreported data as negative values. That glitch was flagged last week and scheduled for correction." She handed out copies of her memo. She continued, "I recommend we issue a corrective press release within the next hour. It will explain the error, apologize for the confusion, and outline our plan to deploy a patch in the next few hours. I have drafted the statement already. If the board approves, we can restore market confidence quickly." Murmurs ran around the room. Some faces looked skeptical. Mrs. Reynolds leaned forward. "If we issue a press release now, will we face legal trouble for the initial misreport?" Maya anticipated the question. "No. Our legal team reviewed the memo. The error was unintentional and documented. We can provide all records to regulators and investors. Transparency will protect us from lawsuits and rebuild trust." Mr. Cho spoke next, his voice calm but firm. "You have only minutes. Are you sure this will work?" Maya nodded. "I am confident. The data shows that when the error is corrected, our stock should rebound. Investors value honesty. A clear explanation will turn this around." Silence followed. In that stillness, Maya thought of the janitor's nod in the cafeteria. She thought of the barista's steam wand and the careful art of frothing milk. That humble task had taught her to pay attention to detail. Now that attention would save the company's reputation. Finally, Mr. Caldwell spoke. He looked at each board member. "All right, let's proceed." He tapped the table. "Legal team, review the press release. PR team, prepare to send it to all major outlets. IT, ready to deploy the patch. Ms. Thompson, you'll oversee this operation." A wave of relief rippled through the room. Maya felt a brief spark of triumph, but she kept her expression calm. She nodded and said, "Thank you. I will coordinate immediately." She gathered her folder and stepped out of the room. In the hallway, she found the PR director, Ms. Lopez, hurrying toward her. Lopez glanced at Maya's folder. "Is it ready?" Maya handed her the draft. "Here's the press release. Please send it within the hour. I've included all necessary details." Lopez scanned the document. "This is perfect," she said. "I'll get our team on it now." Maya then moved down the hall to the IT office. Inside, engineers tapped at keyboards. A large clock on the wall read 10:42. The board had given her until 10:52. Maya approached the lead engineer. "We need the patch for Zenithek deployed immediately. I've sent the file to your inbox. Please priority." He nodded and called his team over. They opened the code repository, tested the patch in minutes, and prepared to push it live. Maya watched over their shoulders until they hit deploy. "Done," the engineer said. With 2 minutes to spare, Maya returned to the boardroom. She saw board members watching the live feed of stock prices on a screen. The red line of decline began to flatten. Investors were reacting. She opened her folder and handed out a final paper, a schedule for monitoring performance, and a plan for weekly updates. Mr. Caldwell looked at the screen, then at Maya's paper. He nodded slowly. "Excellent work." Maya allowed herself a small smile. She had taken 10 minutes, not to serve coffee, but to save an empire. And now, as the stock line turned green, she felt that every moment of observation and action had been worth it. She closed her folder, ready for the next challenge. Knowing she had earned the board's trust through sharp insight and quiet planning, Maya stepped into her new office, a tall glass room overlooking the city's skyline. The morning sun painted gold lines across the desks inside. She closed the door behind her and let out a slow breath. The board had just approved her plan, and now she was interim head of operations. She had 10 minutes earlier saved Titan Corp stock. Now she needed to turn that moment into lasting success. She walked to her desk and set down her folder. Around the corner, she heard voices. To senior executives, Mr. Ellis from marketing and Miss Park from finance stood by the window. They looked at each other when Maya entered. Miss Park's eyes were tired but curious. Mr. Ellis gave a small, polite nod. "Good morning," Maya said, her voice soft but firm. "Thank you for coming." They walked to a round table in the middle of the room. No coffee this time. She wanted clear minds. "We have a chance to reshape how Titan Corp responds to crises," Maya began. "Investors saw our quick fix, but they need proof that we can prevent errors before they happen." She opened her folder and took out a simple sheet, a draft outline for a new quality assurance council. Miss Park leaned in. This council would review every major product and report for at least 3 weeks. Before launch, she asked. Maya nodded. "Yes, and it will include members from IT, legal, marketing, and operations. Each member will sign off on their area. No more hidden glitches." Mr. Ellis tapped a pen. "It sounds good, but it could slow us down. In a fast market, delays mean lost advantage." Maya listened. She had learned to listen first. "I agree. It could slow some launches," she said. "But trust builds value. A small delay that prevents a big scandal can save us millions. We can pilot this council on our top 3 products to measure impact." Miss Park exchanged a look with Mr. Ellis. They weighed her words silently. At last, Miss Park said, "If you're confident, I support it." Mr. Ellis nodded. "Let's try the pilot." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "Thank you. I'll schedule the first council meeting for tomorrow morning." She gathered her papers. Next, she had back-to-back meetings lined up. The first was with the largest shareholder, Mr. Donovan, who held a 40% stake in Titan Corp. Securing his trust was crucial. Maya walked down the polished hallway to his private suite. A security guard checked her badge, then opened the door. Inside, Donovan sat in a high-backed leather chair, legs crossed, reading a newspaper. He looked up, his face unreadable. "Miss Thompson," he said, folding the paper. "I hear you saved us yesterday." Maya stood straight. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Donovan. I wanted to share my vision for Titan Corp's future." She spoke calmly, handing him a concise 1-page summary. Plans for the Quality Assurance Council, the new Serve and Learn program for executives, and a proposal to invite him to lead an oversight committee for Zenithek. Donovan scanned the summary. His eyes narrowed at the Serve and Learn program, a way to have senior leaders work in support roles for a day. He set the paper down. "You want our top leaders to serve coffee and do menial tasks?" Maya met his gaze. "Yes, it helps them see the business from the ground up. When our leaders understand every role, they make better decisions. We prevent errors and build respect across the company." He folded his arms. "Interesting. And you want me to chair the oversight committee?" Maya nodded. "Your experience and your stake make you the ideal chair. You would help guide Zenithek's recovery and ensure our new processes work." Donovan leaned back. He studied her face. After a long pause, he spoke. "If you can prove these changes strengthen the company, I will support you fully. And yes, I will chair the committee." He stood and extended his hand. Maya shook it firmly. Leaving his suite, Maya felt a surge of energy. She had secured the largest shareholder's backing. Now she needed to communicate with the rest of the leadership team. She returned to her office and called a meeting with all department heads. 15 people gathered in the conference room, their faces mixed curiosity and caution. Maya began. "Thank you for joining on short notice. Yesterday showed our strength under pressure. Today, we build on that strength." She outlined her 3-pronged plan: the Quality Assurance Council pilot, the Serve and Learn program, and the formation of the Oversight Committee led by Mr. Donovan. At each point, she paused to explain why it mattered: to restore investor trust, to foster respect within the company, and to maintain long-term stability. Some heads raised questions. The chief technology officer worried about more bureaucracy. Maya replied, "We will keep the council small and focused. We track time and results. If it slows some processes by less than 5%, but prevents a crash like yesterday's, it is worth it." The head of sales asked about cost. Maya said, "Initial costs will come from existing budgets. Long-term savings from fewer recalls, less negative press, and stronger morale will outweigh them." By the end of the meeting, the department heads nodded. They agreed to pilot the plan. Maya felt the room's energy shift. They were not entirely sold, but they were willing to try. Next, Maya turned to building morale among employees. She walked to the cafeteria where, just hours before, she had served coffee. Now she walked behind the counter and rang a small bell. Many employees stopped their lunches and looked up. "Attention, everyone," Maya called out. In the hush that followed, she spoke without an apron for the first time. "Yesterday, Titan Corp faced a crisis. We turned it around because of quick action and honest work. Today, I want to launch Serve and Learn. Once a month, we will invite executives to serve you, make your coffee, clear tables, help in your department. We learn from you, and we grow together." A murmur rose, someone cheered, others clapped. Maya smiled broadly. She felt the spark of unity. In the afternoon, she returned to her office and reviewed progress. Mr. Ellis emailed that the PR team had prepared a full report on their turnaround, ready for the quarterly newsletter. Ms. Park confirmed the council's first meeting time. The IT team had already deployed monitoring tools to catch glitches before they reached live systems. Things were moving fast, but Maya knew real challenges would come later. For now, she took a moment to look out her window. The city bustled below. Cars moved like ants on a hill. People in offices worked, dreamed, and struggled just like she had. She thought of her grandmother's words, "Every small task builds strength." Yesterday's coffee service had taught her to watch and listen. Today's quiet planning had taught her to act and unite. She turned back to her desk and opened her laptop. She drafted a short message to all employees, a thank you for their hard work, a promise to keep them informed, and an invitation to the first Serve and Learn day. She kept her tone warm and clear. She pressed send. Minutes later, replies filled her inbox. Excitement, questions, offers to help organize. Maya replied to each with gratitude. She realized leadership was not just about big moves. It was about small connections that build trust. As evening approached, Maya felt a tired satisfaction. She had spent the day negotiating with influential shareholders, aligning department heads, and inspiring frontline employees. She had turned a 10-minute fix into a roadmap for long-term change. Outside her window, the sun set, casting pink light across the glass towers. Maya closed her laptop and gathered her things. She thought of tomorrow's dawn, another chance to learn, to serve, and to lead. She left the office, ready for what came next, knowing that real leadership. Maya arrived at the boardroom early the next morning. The air smelled of fresh coffee and polished wood. She carried a slim tablet and a stack of printed reports. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with purpose. Today, she would move beyond crisis control. Today, she would shape Titan Corp's future. As she stepped inside, the board members looked up from their seats. Some faces showed weariness from last night's work. Others held cautious hope. Mr. Caldwell, the acting chair, gestured to the seat next to him. Maya placed her tablet on the table and laid out the reports in neat piles. They detailed yesterday's glitch, the press release results, and the early stock recovery. "I've placed the corrected statement on every major news site overnight," Maya said. "Our stock rose 10% by market open. Investors responded well to our honesty. Now, we must solidify this trust." She tapped the tablet screen. A chart showed green lines climbing. Heads nodded. Maya continued. "I propose we expand the pilot of the Quality Assurance Council to all new product launches. I also suggest we begin the Serve and Learn program this week, starting with the senior leadership team." She looked around. Some board members whispered among themselves. Mrs. Reynolds, a longtime director, leaned forward. "Expanding the council so quickly could strain our resources. Are we ready?" Maya smiled gently. "We are ready. The pilot proved we can catch errors earlier and save costs on corrections. We will adjust team sizes and budgets to support the extra reviews. It will cost less than a single stock drop like we saw yesterday." The room fell silent as the board considered her words. Maya's calm confidence filled the space. She thought back to the cafeteria, where serving coffee had taught her to watch small details. Now she used that gift of attention to guide a billion-dollar strategy. Suddenly, the door opened and Mr. Donovan, the major shareholder, entered. He carried a thick folder and wore a dark suit that matched his serious expression. He sat beside Mr. Caldwell. "Miss Thompson," he said, "I've read your memo on the Oversight Committee. I'm ready to begin work." Maya's pulse quickened. "Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Your leadership will be invaluable." She handed him a copy of the committee charter. "This outlines the roles and timelines. We plan our first meeting tomorrow." Donovan scanned the pages. He nodded slowly. "Agreed. He looked at the other board members. I move that we grant Ms. Thompson full CEO authority effective immediately, on an interim basis until our annual meeting. A murmur passed through the room. Maya held her breath. Mr. Caldwell raised an eyebrow. That is a significant step, he said. Why interim CEO now? Donovan replied. She has proven her skill and judgment in crisis. Titan Corp needs consistent leadership, not a series of temporary fixes. I believe she is best suited. Mr. Caldwell folded his hands. All in favor. He tapped his pen. One by one, board members raised their hands. Maya counted silently, a clear majority. With a final nod, Mr. Caldwell said, It is decided. Ms. Thompson, we grant you full interim CEO authority. A wave of relief and pride flooded Maya. She managed to keep her voice steady. Thank you. I will not let you down. After the vote, Maya stepped forward to speak. First, I will meet with the legal and finance teams to update our governance documents. Then, I will address all employees with a message about our new direction. I will schedule a town hall this afternoon. She paused and looked at each board member. Titan Corp's success depends on clear communication and strong processes. I will lead with transparency and respect. Back in her office, Maya gathered her team. They worked late last night preparing employee communications. Now they raced to finalize slides and talking points. The head of communications, Ms. Lopez, read over the speech. This tone is perfect, warm and clear. People will feel heard. Maya nodded. Good. Let's rehearse my opening lines. She practiced speaking slowly, with warmth. Her team offered feedback. They adjusted one phrase to highlight the serve and learn launch. They added a note to invite questions. Meanwhile, the IT director updated the company intranet so that the town hall would stream live to every office. The HR team arranged a seating chart for the cafeteria, where employees would gather. In the cafeteria, they placed a banner reading, New Leadership, New Vision. Maya smiled when she saw it. She had never hung banners before, but now she would. At noon, Maya walked through the busy corridors on her way to the cafeteria. Employees in every department glanced up and smiled. Some waved. She returned their gestures with a nod. She remembered her grandmother's advice, a leader is first a servant. That memory gave her calm strength. She entered the cafeteria, now filled with employees chatting and waiting. The smell of coffee and fresh pastries greeted her. She stood at a small podium. The room quieted. She looked out at faces of every age and role: engineers, marketers, cleaners, interns. Thank you for joining me today, Maya began. Her voice echoed softly. Yesterday, we faced a challenge that tested our strength. Today, we stand stronger because we acted together. She paused to let the words sink in. I am honored to serve as your interim CEO. Applause rippled through the crowd. She continued. We learned that humility and honesty matter. We will launch Serve and Learn next week. Our senior leaders will step into your roles for a day. We learn best by doing. We will also broaden our Quality Assurance Council to protect our products and our reputation. Nods and smiles greeted each point. Maya invited questions. Hands shot up. An engineer asked about extra review time. She explained how teams would adjust schedules. An admin assistant asked how to sign up for feedback sessions. Maya said they would send a survey. By the end of the week, each response was met with gratitude and clear next steps. When the town hall ended, employees stayed to chat and applaud. Maya spent a few minutes walking among them, shaking hands and listening to suggestions. She made mental notes of ideas that could help keep morale high. Returning to her office, Maya felt energized. She had seized control not with force, but with clear plans and shared purpose. She reviewed her schedule, meetings with department heads, boards, and community leaders who partnered with Titan Corp. She smiled. Each meeting would build on today's momentum. As evening neared, she found a quiet moment alone. Through her glass walls, she saw the city lights flicker on. The skyscrapers glowed, reflecting her own journey from a coffee tray to a CEO's seat. She held her tablet and read the final email from the board secretary. Interim CEO letter approved. Welcome, Maya Thompson. She closed her eyes for a moment. She felt gratitude for the lessons of service, for the support of her team, and for the trust of the board and employees. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she was ready. Maya opened her eyes and set her tablet on the desk. She picked up a small coffee cup, a gift from the cafeteria staff with thanks. CEO written on it in marker. She sipped the coffee and smiled. A small act, a humble cup, reminded her where she began. And with that reminder, she stepped forward into her new role. ready to lead with both strength and humility. Maya walked into the cafeteria that morning and paused at the entrance. The room looked different now. The stainless steel machines, the bright lights, the clatter of dishes, all felt like parts of a new beginning. A banner hung over the counter, Serve and Learn Day. Today, Maya and her senior leaders would swap high heels and polished shoes for aprons and name tags. To see life in the cafeteria from the inside out. She smiled as she passed rows of tables where employees chatted over coffee and pastries. Some recognized her and waved, others whispered excitedly about the program. Maya felt a warm glow. She thought back to the day she first served coffee here. Wearing an apron for the first time, she had felt a mix of shock and pride, a lesson in humility that had shaped her leadership. Behind the counter, Joe the janitor gave her a thumbs up. His faded blue jumpsuit now had a small badge reading Culture Advisor. She returned his thumbs up and put on the clean white apron. Waiting on the hook, she tied it carefully, as if tying together the past and the future. A line formed near the coffee machines. First came Ms. Reyes from Finance, then Mr. Patel from Legal. They looked at Maya, surprised. She held out a mug and asked, "Coffee?" Anyone? Ms. Reyes smiled and said, "Yes, please black." Maya filled the cup, practiced the art she had learned, and handed it over. Ms. Reyes nodded with genuine appreciation. Across the counter, Mr. Donovan stood by the pastry display. He had never worn an apron before. He looked awkward but determined. Maya caught his eye and said, "Try the blueberry muffin. It's fresh." He nodded and let her place the muffin on a napkin. He tasted it and grinned. "That is good," he said. Soon, the entire senior team took positions behind the counters. Some made coffee. Others ranged plates of croissants and bagels. Maya noticed how carefully they measured coffee grounds, how they wiped spills immediately, how they smiled as they handed out cups. This was more than a gimmick. It was a chance to learn faces and names, worries and joys. A group of young engineers waited for their morning brew. One of them, Lena, looked nervous. She had led the coding project where the glitch had occurred. Maya remembered Lina's fear that the board would blame her. Now, Maya poured her cappuccino and said, "It's on the house today." Lina's eyes lit up. She whispered, "Thank you, Ms. Thompson." In those simple moments, Maya saw her vision come alive. Leaders and employees talking as equals, respect growing with each cup. She stepped back and watched Mr. Ellis chat with the delivery driver about traffic and weekend plans. Mr. Ellis laughed as he handed over the coffee. The driver seemed surprised that the marketing chief cared about his commute. After the morning rush, Maya gathered her team at a side table. She removed her apron and said, "Thank you, everyone. Today was a success. We learned from our colleagues and built stronger connections. Let's keep this spirit alive." The group clapped and agreed. Next, Maya walked back to her office. Energy buzzing through her veins. She had scheduled a meeting with the board for that afternoon. Today, she would propose a plan to invest in community programs, using Titan Corp's resources to strengthen local schools and job training. She believed that a company's success was tied to the health of its community. In the boardroom, she laid out her idea: partner with 3 local schools, provide technology labs, and offer summer internships to students. The board members leaned forward. They asked questions about budgets and timelines. Maya answered each with clarity and care. She spoke of her own school days, how a generous sponsor had given her a scholarship. She connected her past to the company's future. Mr. Caldwell, who had once doubted her, smiled and said, "This is a wonderful way to give back." Mr. Donovan nodded in agreement. By the end of the meeting, the board approved the plan unanimously. Maya felt a wave of satisfaction. She closed her folder and quietly exited, knowing that Titan Corp would not only thrive in business, but also in the hearts of people. That evening, Maya returned to her apartment, a modest space overlooking the city lights. She carried the Thanks CEO coffee cup from the cafeteria. She set it on her kitchen table and poured a fresh cup of tea. She sat down and thought of everything that had happened. She had come from serving coffee to leading a billion-dollar empire in only days. Yet each step felt natural because she had stayed true to her values: humility, listening, and respect. Her phone buzzed with messages, invitations to speak at industry events, thank you notes from employees, and updates on the community program. She replied to each with gratitude. Then she drafted a short message to her grandmother. "Grandma, today everyone at Titan Corp served coffee. I think they learned as much as I did. Love, Maya." She prepared for bed, laying out tomorrow's schedule a video call with overseas partners, a meeting with the QA council members, and a visit to one of the partner schools. She felt tired but happy. Leadership, she realized, was not a title. It was a series of moments that touched people's lives. Before closing her eyes, Maya held the coffee cup and looked at the words on it. She whispered, "Thank you." She thought of Joe's nod, her grandmother's wisdom, and every board member who had taken a chance on her. She felt the hum of the city below and the steady beat of her own heart. In the days and weeks that followed, Titan Corp's new programs flourished. The Council caught potential glitches before they reached the market. The Serve and Learn Days became a monthly tradition, with employees praising leaders who had once been distant. The community partnerships brought young students into the company's labs, inspiring the next generation. Through it all, Maya stayed grounded. She visited the cafeteria often, sometimes to fetch her own coffee, sometimes to help clean tables. She remembered the power of small acts. She made time to listen to employees, to send handwritten notes of thanks, and to celebrate successes. One afternoon, she walked through a new technology lab at Lakeside High School, one of the partner schools. Students showed her their projects, a robot that could sort recyclables, a science experiment predicting weather patterns. Their excitement reminded Maya of her own curiosity as a child. She encouraged them, told them to dream big, and promised support. As she left the school, she saw a mural painted on the wall, the Titan Corp logo beside a coffee cup. Underneath, words read, "Serve and Lead." Maya smiled. She had helped write a new chapter in her company's story, one where success came from service, and strength came from humility. Back at Titan Corp headquarters, Maya's team celebrated the first anniversary of her appointment. The stock had reached record highs, partnerships were stronger than ever, and the company culture had transformed. In a quiet corner of the cafeteria, Maya found Joe sipping his coffee. She sat beside him. "How are you feeling today?" she asked. He smiled. "Proud," he said. "You showed everyone that a simple cup of coffee can change the world." Maya nodded. She raised her own cup in a silent toast. "To service," she said softly. In that moment, Maya knew her journey was just beginning. She would face new challenges, new crises, and new opportunities. But she carried with her a lesson as simple as coffee: every act of service, every moment of listening, and every choice to lead with humility could build an empire stronger than any boardroom vote. And so, as the sun set on another day, Maya Thompson closed her eyes and gave thanks for the path she had walked from serving coffee as a new CEO to shaping a billion-dollar company's future. Her story would inspire others to remember that true leadership begins with service, and that even the smallest gestures can leave the greatest legacy.